I want to finish with this sort of a story. It's kind of a parable. It's actually a true story, but I was only thinking of it the other day and I was laughing about it to myself. But then I thought about it more and it's like, oh yeah, that's a really good example of this other thing. So anyway, so uh, I was living in the country and I was with my the house I was staying in. It was an old couple, you know, was staying in this old couple's house, okay, and they had a big kitchen and it was a big kitchen table, and I'd been staying there for a while, and some friends came down to visit, okay, and we'd gone out the night before. Two youngish men, right? And I was a youngish man as well, and we'd all done a lot of drinking. Those two guys particularly, right? And they'd never met each other before. They were friends from different parts of the world. They were both friends of mine. So one of them was from Canada, one of them was from Dublin. And they were sleeping on the couch, you know, the in the living room. And the lady in the house had this habit of, when she got up in the morning and was sort of having a cup of tea and making breakfast, she liked to make breakfast for her house guests. She liked to put on whale sound, right? Now, where she put the whale sound on, it was this cassette tape of whale sound, was up pretty high. It was a highest shelf, and the tape was always in there. So she pretty much, you know, as part of the preparation for getting ready in the morning, she'd be, you know, filling the kettle with the water, and she'd reach up and turn on the this cassette tape with the whale sound, okay? And it was a long, you know, it was like an hour long, this thing. And there were periods of silence, you know, in it. And then the whale sound would come back. It's actually quite lovely, you know, to have there in the breakfast. And, you know, and because I knew what she was doing and that she did this every morning, it was part of the morning kind of ritual. So, the lady had come down and was doing her breakfast preparations, including putting the whale sound on. And after about half an hour, the two lads surfaced, and they were seriously hungover, right? They were really hungover because they'd drunk way more than me. And because they were kind of, it's a holiday, you know, and it's like, hey, we're going into town. Yay. So they were, you know, in holiday mode. But then the next morning they were in suffering mode. Okay. And I was already sitting at the kitchen table, and they came in. I was like, oh, hi, you know, and they sat down facing each other on either side of this kitchen table. Okay. And they're practically got their hands in their head, you know, they're like really suffering. And so as they're sort of sitting there feeling very sorry for themselves, they're like, this noise comes on, right? This whale sound, okay? Now, the lady doesn't bat an eyelid. I don't bat an eyelid because I know, right? But the two lads are like, you could see, they're like, they immediately like rose up. They're looking at each other, and I could tell that what they were thinking was, am I actually hearing that? And you know, they haven't said anything. They're like, and you know, the lady is just going around, and I'm just enjoying this so much. I'm not saying anything either, right? So I'm not saying anything about this noise that's going on in the background. And the two of them are slowly having a big meltdown because they're like, they can tell like, oh, I think you're hearing this too, but nobody else. These other two, they don't seem to. they don't seem to be hearing it at all. And I let it go on for about 5 minutes, and then I put them out of their misery. It's like, yes, that is whale sound that you're hearing. And it's just like, if I'd seen that in a film, like, it would have been such a funny thing, right? I mean, it was hilarious to experience it when it was happening. But you know, it's like one of those memories that's just, I love to revisit it because it was such a funny incident. But it's a really good example of reality, I think, and the way reality is, you know, because for the lady of the house, she was in one reality, getting the breakfast ready, you know. I put my whale sound on, I make the tea, I've got some guests, I'm going to make them some breakfast. You know, that was her reality. my reality was, oh, there's the lady of the house. She's making the breakfast. She puts the whale sound on. It's no big deal. But then also my reality was, oh, these two guys don't know. They don't know that that's coming. That sound is coming from the cassette player. And then their reality was so different. It was such a different, like for them, they were practically having a psychedelic experience. They were like, oh my God, um, I feel so hungover. They're almost not completely in their body, or they certainly don't want to be in their body. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I'm having such an awful time. And then into this, and it's like, oh, but the lady's making us a cup of coffee. It'll be as soon as I get some greasy food in here, it's all gonna feel a lot better. And then in top of that, it's like, because the whale sound comes so slowly, it's like, what is that what is that noise? Am I anybody else hearing this noise? She doesn't look like she's hearing it. He doesn't look like he's hearing it. He looks as bad as I feel. And he looks disturbed as well. Are we connected in some way? Oh, what's happening? Nobody's, what's that noise? That's their reality. And I just thought it was like that's the way it is for, people. And I think, we're all we all think we're having the same experience, but we're not, we're having such a different experience. And knowing that, it just makes it much easier to be compassionate. I wasn't particularly compassionate to them. I let them suffer for 5 minutes, but mainly because it was so enjoyable, so delightfully, funny. But I thought it was a really good example of how, because the funny thing was the lady was completely oblivious to what was happening. She was just making breakfast. She didn't realize these two guys were having a meltdown because it was part of her scenery, the whale sound. She probably wasn't even hearing it anymore. She was just thinking about the stuff she was thinking about, and these two guys were having just this, weird experience. So yeah, I thought it was a great example of how we're all in our own little bubbles, and it's kind of what I was saying about communication. We don't always communicate. We don't always, to think, oh well, of course I'm saying what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you hear it properly? And that's why, because everyone's having such a different experience.